Morning routines. Now, these are one of the things that people obsess over. And transparently, I obsess over mine and have obsessed over periods. Now, there's a huge amount of mistakes people make with these. In this podcast and in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly what I think is the most effective thing you should do and what you shouldn't do. Now, if we start, what is the most important thing you need to do in your business to get results? It's focus on the right things that have the highest amount of leverage and highest amount of output and are the big needle movers. We want to be looking for things that have huge amounts of leverage and are like evergreen assets that you can build. Now, what do a lot of people do first thing in the morning? They pick up the phone, they start scrolling through Instagram, they get triggered, they start looking at cat reels, or they sit around singing Kumbaya and doing yoga or whatever else they're doing. That's not probably the most effective way for you to optimize the highest amount of creativity you have, the highest amount of energy you have at your most focused time of the day. So if you are that person, I'm about to correct you in terms of what I personally feel you should do. I'm a big believer that you should get up early. I personally get up around 5 to 4:45 a.m. at the moment. I would say any time before the sun comes up is a good rule of thumb. And the reason why, if you get up early, it's like a golden window of opportunity when other people aren't going to be disturbing you, aren't going to be messaging you, and it feels like you're getting ahead on the rest of the world. Now, the secret with this is something called plan tomorrow today. What I would recommend you do at the end of today is you sit down, you get your notebook out, what the 2 to 3 most important things you need to get done in your business tomorrow that can help you get to exactly where you want to be. And what do you think you do? You write those down, and tomorrow morning, when you get up, you do those 2 to 3 things. If you do that consistently over a period of time, you will have a monumental shift in your business. And what I want you to think about is this, and I had this revelation towards the end of last year. What would I need to do if I wasn't going to be successful next year? I would sleep in, I wouldn't do the most important tasks. So then if I do the opposite of that, I sacrifice my sleep a little bit when I have to, I do the things I need to do, then surely I achieve all the goals I have, which is correct. So the reality is I just do those 2 things and then become successful. And this is essentially what you need to think about. What are the things that you're doing right now that are actually self-sabotaging you and you're actually making life more difficult than you think? And something to think about is what's called activation energy. So what I would suggest you do is the night before, you get your planner or diary, whatever the hell you use to write your stuff out. Write those 3 things down, have it sat on your desk, have your computer window open with only the browsers you need, have Slack, WhatsApp, all that stuff closed. So as soon as you come in, you literally have notebook, okay, I'm gonna start this, windows open, boom, you get into it. So my personal routine of what I do, I wake up, I hydrate, I caffeinate to the nines, I take a multitude of supplements, which there's loads of other videos on that. I will read 10 pages of a book from mindset, skills and business, all that type of stuff. I'm reading a really good book at the moment called The 50th Law by Robert Greene and 50 Cent. I'd highly recommend it. So I'll read 10 pages of that. I'll journal, just write a page of just general notes, how yesterday went, how I feel, what I'm doing today. And I find that actually really useful as a brain dumping process, but actually more important when I'm really stressed. I'll look back through old notes and I'll laugh and be like, oh, I had this exact same problem a year ago. And if I gave you an example, like if I looked, today is the 15th of January, if I looked from the 15th of January 2024, like I actually did this the other day, I was like, I'm stressed because sales calls booked seem very low. Like, what am I worried about now? Sales calls are low. What am I always been worried about the last 5 to 7 years? We're not booking enough sales calls. Yeah, I've booked over 50,000 sales calls. And I had a realization in my head, I'm like, this is just your mind playing games on you. And this is why it's powerful for you to journal, because you can almost take a capsule of time and look back when you physically wrote that thing, which is very powerful. So after reading, journaling, I then go straight into whatever the work I have to do is. I put on my noise cancelling headphones. I have a specific playlist I listen to, which has no music, has no words in it. It will be things like soundtrack from like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Dark Knight, stuff like that. It's pretty badass. And I'll go straight into the task that I need to do for probably 2 to 3 hours, depending how long it takes. Now, why is this important? Because I'm ticking stuff off that's important and I'm getting a dopamine hit. Now, don't tell anyone this, but I'm a massive dopamine addict. I chase things. I've got a very addictive personality. So I'm getting my hit first thing in the morning. But from what? Something incredibly positive. And this is setting your day off like a rocket ship. You're already crushing it and it's like 7, 8 a.m. So what do you think then happens the rest of the day? You're setting a pace cadence. You're on the fucking roll. So then I'll go and train, work out, and then come back and do some more work. So this is really how I would suggest you set yourself up for success when it comes to morning routines. Now, the key with this is making it habitual. So if you focus on trying to get up at the same time every day, eventually it becomes easy. And I'll give you a really easy way in terms of how to do this. If you currently get up at, say, 7 a.m., if each day you keep moving the get up time by 5 minutes earlier, so 6:55, then 6:50, 6:45, your body starts to acclimatize and eventually you just start waking up early. But the other end of the spectrum of that is actually making sure you go to bed at the right time. If you find you're watching 2 to 3 hours of Netflix in the evening, which is just literally like your brain is like numbed and minded out, the reality is what you should have probably done is just gone to bed and woken up and been more refreshed the next day. Because you watching 2 to 3 hours of Game of Thrones or whatever Walking Dead you're watching is probably not going to change your life. But you being sharper and locked in for 2-3 hours in the morning can change your life if you do it for 2 to 3 years. And one of the most important things you have to think about is what's called escape velocity. Once you have enough financial capital, enough wealth, at some point your money just starts to make money and maybe you don't have to work this hard forever. But what I would suggest, you need to be in a season of working and building wealth for a certain period of time before you can relax. One of the problems I see a lot of people do, they take their foot off the gas way too early. And I've done it through like periods, and my equivalent of probably taking my foot off the gas is probably different than other people because I hold myself to a very high standard. But the reality is no one is going to do the work but you, and ultimately you have to be the person to hold yourself to the higher standard. Some beautiful tactic I'll give you now is a process called gamification. With my journal, what I also do is I'll write down, so at the moment I'm doing my 75 scale challenge, which is basically get up before 5:30, I have to track my food every day, I have to weigh myself every day, I have to update my net worth every day. There was one other thing, I have to read 10 pages of book, I have to journal, and I'm on like day 15 because it's the 15th day. So every day I update day 15, day 16. So I'm on a hot streak, right? It's like when you're playing a video game. So you want to gamify the process and you don't want to ruin the process. And the more you add fun things into this type of process, the easier it will get for you to get addicted to it. And getting addicted to things that are moving you forward in life is what's going to make the process enjoyable and ultimately lead you to the things you want, which if it's going to be a business, it's going to be a business that's going to help you get time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. So if you're in your morning routines, you're spending 3 to 4 hours doing ice baths, yoga, singing Kumbaya, probably not the most effective thing you should be doing. I'd highly suggest you implement this strategy. This is probably one of the biggest things that changed my life. And when I was first building my coaching business, I remember literally getting up in the UK and it was like bitterly cold, walking down my garden at like 5 a.m. I remember falling over, like slipping in the mud, wearing my slippers and throwing coffee and crap everywhere, like walking down to like the shed where my office was. And yes, I built a multi-million-dollar business from a shed, which had no heating, no air conditioning. I'd sit in there at 5:30 a.m. with a woolly hat on and like a ski jacket, just like grinding away. And I look back now and laugh because it's quite funny. And I've shared photos of this before, but the reality is you'll look back on these times with huge amounts of fondness. So I implore you just to put the effort in and you'll look back in 2-3 years with a huge amount of pride in terms of what you've done. If you took value from this, make sure you take a screenshot of this, share it to your Instagram stories, I'll repost it. I have a huge amount of joy in terms of making this podcast. I want to give you guys as much value and insight in terms of what I'm doing and what's helping me and also our clients. If you enjoy this, also give us a 5-star review and we'll see you next episode very soon.